Surv was considered one of the best players in the game back in 2016. At the time, BloodBath was the hardest demon in the game, and despite having been verified and released by Riot over 7 months prior, it still had yet to receive its first victor. Many players were making good progress slowly but surely, and eventually, on March 6, 2016, Surv choked and failed at 96%. Later, he would go on to fail again at 96%, as well as a 94% fail to top of the bad luck. Due to these fails, Quasar would go on to be BloodBath's first victor instead of Surv. Surv would end up beating BloodBath later on, becoming its second victor. This fail had an incredible effect, as Quasar would get far more attention for his completion and would even be picked to verify the upcoming hardest demon, BloodLust. Speaking of BloodLust, it would inevitably be dropped by Quasar and picked up by the quickly rising player Knobbelboy. After 10 months of practice and over 100,000 attempts, Knobbelboy was getting extremely consistent at the level. Despite its massive difficulty, far above the hardest demon at the time, BloodLust looked like it would be verified any day now. On June 9th, 2017, however, Knobbelboy choked and failed at 97%. Only to get back to the ending only 10 minutes later and choke again, but this time even further, getting 98%. Despite the extreme consistency Knobbelboy showed, these fails were understandably demotivating, and after taking a long break, the level took another long 9 months to eventually be verified. This fail was very important, showing that a level so ahead of its time in terms of difficulty could have been beaten over 9 months earlier than it did. The fail remains one of the most iconic chokes in the game's history, with the 98% video having nearly 3.5 million views.
What the fuck? Really? Oh, you fuck. Oh.
Tartarus is an extreme demon that stood at the top of the demon list for 2 years following its completion, being one of the biggest jumps in difficulty in the game's history. Uploaded publicly as an open verification, the entire community was able to attempt and verify the near impossible achievement that Riot and a team of others had created. The race seemed close at first, but eventually, all the competition faded away and left the player Mullsy far in the lead with progress. On July 26, 2019, nearly 8 months after he started playing it, with over 175,000 attempts poured in, Mullsy choked at 97% on what would soon become the hardest level in the game. Over 6 months later, Mullsy will pull through and beat Tartarus, becoming the second person in the game to do so. Within those 6 months, another rising player, Dils, would make quick progress and eventually beat the level, a month before Mullsy would end up beating it. This makes Mullsy's choke extremely demoralizing, as he could have been the verifier for one of the most legendary hardest demons in Geometry Dash history.
No! No! No!
Sonic Wave is one of the most infamous levels in Geometry Dash history, being hack verified to rival BloodBath, only to create the most intense verification race ever. Not even a month after Surv's BloodBath 96% fail, the next biggest fail in GD history was about to be made. Mefewe was an incredibly dedicated player, spending 6 months and tens of thousand attempts on Sonic Wave. Not only was this a jump from Decode as his previous hardest demon, but he had also buffed his copy of Sonic Wave to be even harder than the competition. Eventually, on March 25, 2016, Mefewe would choke and fail at 98% on his buffed Sonic Wave, getting closer than anyone else had gotten by far. Despite getting so close to a competition, Mefewe never finished off Sonic Wave, even after getting more fails at the end, such as 91%. This 98% fail remained the worst fail in the game's history for a very long time, as the monumental achievement of beating Sonic Wave wouldn't be done until exactly 8 months later, on November 25th, 2016, when Sonics finally verified Sonic Wave. Sonic Wave still stands as the largest jump in difficulty in the game's history, currently over 100 places above the previous hardest demon by today's standards. This would have made Mefewe's completion one of the greatest things done in the game's history, verifying an even harder version 8 months before anyone else even got close.
No!
98!
98! 98!
No! No!
Abyss of Darkness is an old hacked impossible level, which is considered to be one of the hardest upcoming levels in the game. The player Thik had been playing it since 2019, and slowly but surely making progress on this incredibly difficult level. After 140,000 attempts and nearly a year and a half of playing the level and progressing, Thik made an incredible progress of 95%, as a fluke from 76%. Despite the ending being the hardest part of the level, it seemed as if the formerly impossible level could be verified soon. 3 months later, Thik finally passed 95% and got a new best on the level, being both his worst fail and the worst fail in the history of the game. Thik achieved 98% on Abyss of Darkness on July 20th, 2021, a choke that changed the game history. By this point, Tartarus had been the hardest demon in the game for over a year and a half, with other levels aimed to be harder in the early stages of verification. Abyss of Darkness's main rival in difficulty, Firework, was getting similar progress in verification, with Thik having 88% on the level. Unfortunately, after another devastating fail at 98%, Thik dropped Abyss of Darkness for personal reasons, and the level remains unbeaten today. Tartarus would remain on the top of the demon list for over 4 more months after this fail, and would eventually be topped by Slaughterhouse and Firework, both of which are thought to be easier than Abyss of Darkness. To this day, nobody has gotten even close to the progress Thik made on Abyss of Darkness, and the level is considered the hardest upcoming top 1 demon, which would have made it a revolutionary feat if Thik had pulled through and verified it back in July. If this choke hadn't happened, then all the current demons on the demon list today would be 1 spot lower, as it would be the current hardest demon in the game.